People around the world are reacting to the death of outspoken Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. In Germany, mourners gathered in front of the Russian embassy in Berlin. During a spontaneous vigil, protesters carried flowers and banners calling Russian President Vladimir Putin, quote, a killer. Many there refuse to believe that the news of the politician's death is true. U.S. President Joe Biden says he has no reason to believe the reports of Navalny's death aren't true, and he's very clear on who he thinks is to blame.
Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Putin is responsible. What has happened to Navalny is yet more proof of Putin's brutality. No one should be fooled, not in Russia, not at home, not anywhere in the world. He was so many things that Putin was not. He was brave, he was principled, he was dedicated to building a Russia where the rule of law existed and where it applied to everybody.
CBC's Washington correspondent Richard Madden has more on the reaction in the U.S.
Speaking from the White House, President Biden says he was outraged but not surprised by the death of Alexei Navalny. Biden says he clearly risked his life for what he believed in. Watch this.
He bravely stood up to the corruption, the violence, and all the bad things that the Putin government was doing. In response, Putin had him poisoned, he had him arrested, he had him prosecuted for fabricated crimes, he sentenced him to prison, he was held in isolation. Even all that didn't stop him from calling out Putin's lies.
So Biden went on to say he risked his life for something he believed in. Now, as he was leaving the podium, Biden confirmed he's now considering new punishments against Russia, perhaps in the form of more sanctions, although nothing is finalized yet. Now, as we've been seeing all day, the Biden administration has been voicing universal condemnation on this tragic death. This morning, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at the Munich Security Conference. She recognized Alexei Navalny's widow, Yulia, who was in attendance. She then put the blame for her husband's death, just like the president, squarely on the Kremlin.
This is, of course, terrible news, which we are working to confirm. My prayers are with his family, including his wife, Yulia, who is with us today. And if confirmed, this would be a further sign of Putin's brutality. Whatever story they tell, let us be clear, Russia is responsible.
Now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was also speaking at that same conference. He told Yulia Navalny directly that Russia is responsible for Alexei's death, but then he went a step further.
His death in a Russian prison, and the fixation and fear of one man only underscores the weakness and rot at the heart of the system that Putin has built. Russia's responsible for this.
So those comments were echoed by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. But there's also another sidebar story here. Biden used Navalny's death to call out far-right House Republicans in Congress who are blocking that $61 billion aid package to help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. Biden says history is watching, and the failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. Now, this is all stems because recently we've seen some far-right Republicans essentially cozying up to Putin's style of authoritarianism, some even glamorizing it. And now we're seeing some pushback against them. Take a look at former Vice President Mike Pence, what he wrote against his former party, saying, there is no room in the Republican Party for apologists for Putin. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis went a step further, criticizing not only his Republican colleagues, but the right-wing media ecosystem. He says history will not be kind to those in America who make apologies for Putin and praise Russian autocracy, nor will history be kind to America's leaders who stay silent because they fear backlash from online pundits. So clearly, their divided politics on full display in reaction to Navalny's tragic death.